Heads up, you're in the Hoodwood, the web's foremost destination for sports opinion. This week we discuss the Super Bowl. Ravens win it again in a thriller. They almost blew it, but they won it. And is Joe Flacco about to get paid? The sad saga of A-Rod, his downfall just seemingly taking another tragic turn. And more about the Ped scandal. Are more names about to blow up in Major League Baseball? And the one team in the NCAA tournament that no one wants to face. All this week in the Hoodwood. Ready? Come on. Greetings from the Hoodwood, where the locals are looking for Punxsutawney Phil to slap him around because it's still wintertime here. Your boy KJ, and the Super Bowl and the 2012 season is finally in the books. Baltimore Ravens winning 34-31 over the 49ers, jumping out to a big lead, and then almost watching it fall apart after a 35-minute power outage, which Beyonce had nothing to do with. I didn't watch that much of the halftime show, but she was hot enough to blow transformers and to make people melt down. But the Ravens jumped out to a big lead. Joe Flacco winning the MVP, which we'll discuss a little bit more about him later. The Ravens were not a good defensive team, and they seemingly let the Niners, who just seemed to like to spot other teams' big leads, and come back on them. But they couldn't come all the way back. Colin Kaepernick tried his best, but could not get the Niners past the Ravens into the lead. And the one thing that I'm still puzzling about in the fourth quarter, with the Niners on the move, driving for what would seemingly be the go-ahead touchdown. They get the ball at the 5-yard line and go away from what got them that close to the go-ahead touchdown. They stopped using Frank Gore, who had over 100 yards rushing. They stopped using the read option with Colin Kaepernick, who had been gashing the Ravens defense mercilessly. They could only get to within 34-29, and then last second safety notwithstanding, the Ravens win their second Super Bowl in 12 years and send Ray Lewis off into retirement as a champion. Now, does that make the Ravens one of the greatest teams of all time? Far from it. I don't think they were a decent team, to be sure, and they got hot when they needed to. But the fact remains, the Ravens were a seriously flawed team that came a blown coverage in the divisional playoffs away from losing, and then brainlock meltdown by the Patriots in the AFC title game from losing. And had the Niners not spotted them a 28-6 lead, I don't think they would have beaten the 49ers. Yeah, I know. I've missed my last 5 Super Bowl picks. I think the team that I picked publicly I'm going to bet against next year. But that's another year to ponder on who's going to make the Super Bowl. The Ravens win the Super Bowl. They do deserve the accolades and the congratulations. But they have another thing to worry about. And it's no real big secret that I'm no big fan of Joe Flacco. The Baltimore Ravens quarterback had a spectacular game, throwing for 287 yards, 3 touchdowns, leading the Ravens to the win and getting Super Bowl MVP. The fact of the matter is that Joe Flacco had an opportunity to sign a contract before this game, before the season, I should say, and didn't. Choosing to take the gamble, saying, if I have a great season, I can maximize my earning potential. Well, guess what? He led the Baltimore Ravens to a Super Bowl title. And in effect, is going to basically get paid. There's no way around looking at the fact that Joe Flacco is going to get a monster payday. He's led the Baltimore Ravens to the playoffs every year he's been in the league. He's won a playoff game every year he's been in the league. And this year, took the Ravens to the title, winning 4, count them, 4 playoff games. 3 in the AFC playoffs and the Super Bowl. So it stands to reason that the way he's played is going to get him a big payday. On the level of a Tom Brady, on the level of a Drew Brees. And many people may snicker and say he's not that up to their par. He's not an elite quarterback. But guess what? He has something that Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Eli Manning, Drew Brees, what they all have. And that is a Super Bowl ring. He has taken his team to the ultimate prize. And that in itself is going to be a big bargaining chip for Joe Flacco's agent. He says he wants to stay in Baltimore, and many people wonder, are the Ravens going to franchise him? It don't matter, because one way or another, it may not be this year, but it may be next year, but sooner or later, he is going to hit the mother lode. Does he deserve it? He's only been in the league 5-6 years. Many people think he's not an elite quarterback, me included. But when you have a quarterback who has taken his team to the playoffs, like Flacco has, when you have a quarterback that has won the big game, like Flacco has, it's pretty hard to argue if he's going to get the loot or if he deserves it. All I know is that his agent is going to have the strong arm. He's got the hammer. And a negotiation is going to come out, and Flacco's going to be like, well, I'm sorry, let me shine that Super Bowl trophy I just won for you. Joe Flacco's going to make the money, and there's no doubt about that. But I tell you somebody who was actually watching this with a very interested eye, and that is someone who may surprise you, Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers. Now you say, well, what does Aaron Rodgers have to do with Joe Flacco when, he was eliminated from the playoffs and the Packers are not in negotiations with Aaron Rodgers? Not yet. Aaron Rodgers will be a free agent after next season. And you can bet your bottom dollar that he is watching this carefully. Because if you think about it, put Aaron Rodgers' numbers and Joe Flacco's numbers together, like we do here. Aaron Rodgers has considerably better numbers. Aaron Rodgers has a ring, just like Joe Flacco now has. Aaron Rodgers has an MVP. Last year, he was one of the top quarterbacks. 2011, he put up ridiculous numbers. In 2012, put up good, solid numbers. He can make the argument he's the better quarterback. And I, for one, wouldn't argue. Don't you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to wait to see if Joe Flacco was worth, say, $100 million? 5 years, 120 per. Don't you think his agent can go to Ted Thompson of the Packers and say, Flacco's a bum. Aaron Rodgers is worth, if he's worth 100, if Flacco's worth 100, Rodgers is worth 125, $150 million. The sky's the limit. Joe Flacco's going to get paid for sure. Show for show. But his rising tide will rise all the boats. And you can better best believe that there are some named quarterbacks that are watching with interest and saying, if Flacco gets this kind of money, I should get more. Now, speaking of a quarterback that is getting paid, when Michael Vick gets a $3 million salary bonus, a roster bonus for being on the Philadelphia Eagles roster. Now, Eagles recently ran Andy Reid out of town and have hired former Oregon coach Chip Kelly. And many people are wondering, will Kelly keep Michael Vick? He is enamored with his former quarterback, Dennis Dixon, who he coached at Oregon. But many people wonder, has Michael Vick outlived his usefulness? Will another team take a chance on the aging quarterback who has played in Atlanta and Philadelphia, and many people feel may be released? Or will he have that one shot, that one glamorous season where everything gets put together? He can take a team, Buffalo, Minnesota, Tennessee, some team that needs a quarterback desperately, take them to the playoffs, to the Super Bowl maybe. One can only wonder. Michael Vick at one time was considered the future of the NFL. Scrambling quarterback who could run like the wind and had a good arm, and was the type of quarterback that was impossible to plan for and a nightmare to try to defend. Now he's a step slower, not as sharp, and many people wonder, is he going to get the big payday? Not so much the big payday, but another shot at winning the whole thing, or at least getting a chance to win. Michael Vick, who knows what his future is going to be, but it probably won't be in Philadelphia. Now, switching gears to baseball, we're looking at pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training in about anywhere from 8 to 10 days. One player that's not going to be reporting to spring training or any kind of baseball facility anytime soon is Alex Rodriguez, the much beleaguered and talked about third baseman of the New York Yankees, who is under fire once again for performance-enhancing drugs or allegations of their use. Of course, you remember 2009, he came clean in a 60 Minutes interview affirming that he had taken performance-enhancing drugs during the 2001 to 2003 period when he was playing with the Texas Rangers. But now, reports have been surfacing from ESPN that he received injections from Anthony Bosch, who is a known dealer of performance-enhancing drugs, and that there were text messages and other kinds of correspondence that had Bosch personally injecting Rodriguez with performance-enhancing drugs. Now, this in itself is damaging enough, but given Alex Rodriguez's performance, his declining performance in the last 4 to 5 years, yes, he led the Yankees to a World Series title in 2009, but he hasn't hit 30 home runs since then. He's a 300 hitter, but he has not hit over 300 since 2008. His performance is declining. His numbers are falling off almost with just frightening. It's almost a steep drop. Someone who was once a 300 hitter hit over 40 home runs, knocked in 100 RBIs with regularity, has stopped doing it. And at 37, many people wonder, was it the performance-enhancing drugs? Was he a product of those drugs? Did they enhance his play so where he was not just a good player, but a great player, an elite player? I personally wondered about Alex Rodriguez since he played for Texas. I never thought of him of that great of a player. I mean, yes, he has over 600 home runs, but then you have to wonder, how much of that was a product of the performance-enhancing drugs? How much of a boost did he get? Unlike Barry Bonds, who I thought was a Hall of Famer beforehand, even though he didn't get the necessary votes and numbers to do so. But now, Alex Rodriguez, you wonder, you question it. I think the Yankees would be well served to try to get from out under the massive contract that they've given him. Will they be able to do it? Baseball contracts are guaranteed. And no other team is going to be willing to take on that huge contract, much less the publicity that's coming up with a player aging, not as productive as he once was, with a cloud performance-enhancing drugs over his head. Alex Rodriguez may have played his last game, even though he says he's no plans to retire. I'm thinking the Yankees may try to get him out of his contract, and no other team will want him. He would be feline and non grata. Cat not welcome. I mentioned before at the top of the broadcast about a college basketball team that no one wants to face. And no, it's not Indiana, it's not Duke, it's no one out west, no one down south, it's Michigan. That's right, the Michigan Wolverines. 21-2. They were the number one team, yes. They took a loss to Indiana last Saturday. But I still think that this is the most deepest, the most balanced team in college basketball. Trey Burke, Tim Hardaway Jr., both averaging better than 16 points a game. This is a team that can play wide open, play lockdown defense, as evidenced in their thrilling win against Ohio State Tuesday night at Chrysler Arena. You know, it was a back and forth game. Came down to a last second block shot where Michigan was able to pull out the win, avenging one of its two losses. Now, its other loss, like I said before, was to Indiana. They will play them later in the season. No, actually, the last game of the regular season, and it could possibly avenge that loss as well. But this is a team I think could make a deep run into the NCAA tournament. This is a team that has not been getting a lot of pub. It's not been getting a lot of love. A lot of people have been talking about Syracuse. A lot of people have been talking about Duke. A lot of people have been talking about Indiana. And all those stuff. A lot of people talk about Louisville for a while. Those have all been number one teams. And Michigan was number one team briefly. But I still think they're the dark horse. A team that you need to watch and keep an eye on going into February, going into March. This is a team that if they're in your favorite team's bracket in their region, you better be careful and be worried, because this is a team that could make it to Atlanta and cut down their nets for their first title in better than 25 years. Far from it for me to be the dead horse. Now, I've been on record on this program with my immense dislike of Dwight Howard, and I'm not a real big fan of Kobe Bryant. I like his game. I've always liked his game. Never really liked his kind of aloof, snooty attitude. But he called out Dwight Howard recently, saying that he needs to play through pain and get with the program. And that the Lakers, being an elite team, have a higher standard that he is obviously not used to. And for one, I think Kobe's right. I think Kobe hit the nail precisely on the head. The Lakers have won 16 titles. Kobe's been a part of 5 of those titles. And he understands what it takes to win an NBA championship. And being with the Lakers, who, aside from the Celtics, are one of the most storied franchises in the NBA, that they see it as championship or bust. And you look at the way the Lakers have been playing, very mediocre, but they look like they're starting to put things together. But now with this injury to Pau Gasol, who could be out 4 to 6 weeks, Dwight Howard nursing a shoulder injury that's not going to get any worse, Kobe Bryant called Dwight Howard out, told him he needs to play through pain. And Kobe Bryant is no stranger to playing through pain. The assortment of injuries that this guy has had and played through is mind-boggling. I mean, me personally, I have a low threshold of pain. I twist my ankle, I'm hopping around. Kobe Bryant has been playing with a wide assortment of injuries and playing well. And he expects Dwight Howard to do the same. Dwight Howard is not used to somebody pushing him like this, demanding excellence every night from him. He is used to playing as he sees fit, stretches of brilliance, great play, but occasionally coasting. And his previous stint in Orlando, coaches let him do it, act like a spoiled brat. There was no other strong player to stay on Dwight Howard to play good. Now he's in LA, And Kobe Bryant is demanding that he play at a higher level. And I think this is going to be one of the final straws that actually runs Dwight Howard out of town. And it's not Kobe Bryant being a team killer. I think rather the contrary. He is used to a standard of excellence that Dwight Howard just isn't used to. And it's showing clearly in his comments and Howard's reluctance, recalcitrance to play. Now let's take a look at the Fat Dap and Head Slap of the Week. Fat Dap of the Week go to the nominees for the, the inductees, I should say, for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Bill Parcells, who has coached for the Patriots, Giants, Jets, and Cowboys, and won a Super Bowl, won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants after the 86 and 90 seasons. Jonathan Ogden, Larry Allen, I was thinking kind of a marginally as Hall of Famers, but they did get in on the first vote. Warren Sapp, who now makes me feel old because he's younger than me. He's my age. Younger than me just by a couple months. Someone who's my age is actually in the Hall of Fame. Played about a dozen years with the Buccaneers, winning a Super Bowl with them. Was a premier defensive tackle. And Chris Carter, who played for the Vikings for the bulk of his career, came out of Ohio State from Middletown, Ohio. The knock against him when the Minnesota Vikings picked him up from the waiver wire for $100. Buddy Ryan said all he does is catch touchdowns. Well, he caught plenty of touchdowns and had over 1,100 catches in a great career that will head to Canton. They say Fat Dap to all the players who made the Hall of Fame. The class of 2013 in Canton will be much enriched by players and coach that gave so much to the game. Now, the Head Slap of the Week goes to Andrea McDonald. You wonder who that is. It's the mother of Arkansas recruit Alex Collins, who was an ESPN 150 ranked running back out of Plantation, Florida. Well, with the National Letter of Intent signing day being on Wednesday, he was all set to sign with Arkansas, but his mother ran off with the letter of intent papers. He's just all ready to put the school hat on and say, I'm signing with Arkansas, and all of a sudden he decides that he looks around for the hat and it's not there. He needs the letter of intent papers. Seems that McDonald wanted her son to stay closer to home and play for the U. And it seemed that he wanted to side with Arkansas. But McDonald ran off with the papers. Well, it turns out that Collins was able to get the papers signed today, Thursday, with his father and his grandmother signing off on the papers. And McDonald basically said she didn't want her son to leave South Florida. That's a head slap, definitely, to a mother who can't let go and needs to know that her baby boy is going on to bigger and better things. I wonder what Brett Bielema, head coach of Arkansas, had to say about that. But nevertheless, the head slap does go to McDonald, a mother who just really can't let go. Old music coming up in the background, you know what that means. Our time here in the Hoodwood is coming to an end. Of course, you can catch the video blog version every week on YouTube. It usually comes out every Thursday, depending on how my production schedule goes. You can also read the column at ugabsports.com. Musings from the Hoodwood comes out every Tuesday on that website. I encourage you to read that, as well as all the other fine columns and blogs that are there on that site. If you have any questions, concerns, show topics, or things for Fat Dap and Head Slap, please do drop me a line at kj@blackbanditproductions.com. And I will be back next week with more musings from the Hoodwood. Until next post, fellow sports fans.